Carla, never change. Like, keep being you. And like,
tell me that, but sometimes I'm like, damn, is it for your entertainment or genuinely like, should I not change?
But it sounds like you were like that at such an early age, though.
I was. I feel like I've always had a big personality. No, I definitely always had a big personality, because I remember, you know, when they used to have like open house and your parents had to go meet like your middle school teacher.
Yeah.
I very specifically remember my middle school teacher telling my mom, your daughter is a social butterfly, aka your daughter's a fucking distraction in the whole class. Like, she got to stop making friends with everyone. She got to stop talking. But that's always been me. And I've always, I don't know, like, I just never felt the need to censor myself unless it was like in a professional setting, and then it was a matter of code switching and not censoring myself, because I feel like I could be myself at work with some, you know, some code switching, but I'm still me. And it's just like, I don't know, being fake is kind of exhausting. You gotta be like, you really have to think about it. And there's like too many things to think about in the world to think about like being me and being authentic. So it's just like, it's not worth it to me.
Where did you get that confidence? Because I feel like that's a lot of what it is. And like you said, like you were a social butterfly, but that had to come somewhere. Where like, was your mom or your dad just like,
yo, no,
were they social butterflies? Like, how did you get that?
Definitely not my dad. My dad's a little bit like Shrek. My dad's like, girl, go away. Like, nah, I know y'all are my kids, but like, de lejos, like, go play over there. I think that my mom, in her life before us, my mom had us really young. My mom was a teen mom. My parents got married super young.
She looks like your sister. Like, my mom is old as fuck. Your mom looks like she's 30.
Yo, you don't understand when I go out with her. I love going out with her because I'd be prostituting her out. Yo, no shame. I'd be like, yo, you want to buy this woman a drink? Yeah, she's cute, right? That's my mom. And they're like, that's weird, but also your mom is beautiful.
Oh, I love that. I would buy your mom a drink. I would do that.
I would let you buy my mom a drink.
Because that comes with one for you, right?
And they're gonna be like, oh, tell me more about how do you look like sisters? But anyways, like before my mom, what I guess out of my sisters, I'm probably closest personality wise to my mother. My mother, like when you get her in the right mood, in the right setting, in the right mood, my mother is a lot like me. She's like, drinks, music, bring everyone together. Yo, when we first went into quarantine, you know how many Zoom meetings my mom was like in the back, like trying to give me shots? And I'm like, cut it out. Like, yo, like, I'm the director, I'm having a staff meeting. Like, you can't just be like, mira, toma tu shot. And then she'd be like, yo, no, there's this video where you can just hear mom like, if you don't get off your meeting, I am doing it. And I'm like, yo.
You posted that one, right?
Yes, I did. But yeah, I feel like I get it from my mother. But besides that, I'm just really interested in people. Like, I just really like talking to people. Like, I have been I was at the W in Boston. And I was there, and there was an old white man by himself. And it was like a Friday night. It was hip hop night. Like, this man was out of place. Old white man, just absolutely like, what are you doing here drinking Bud Light? Like, the worst beer ever. Like, this is so trashy of you. You look so out of place. But I so wanted to know his story. What brought you here? Are you here alone? Are you at a conference? Are you a doctor? Are you like some bioengineer? Are you going through a divorce?
Are you single?
Are you single, right? Or do you really just have a fascination with women of color? We curvy, a lot of it. Like, I just get to know. And like that desire to want to know people's stories and like my lack of like filter, where I'm just like, tell me your deepest, darkest secret. I just met you 30 seconds ago, but what ticks you? What puts a fire in your belly? Like, that is just it comes so natural to me, which is another reason why I was just naturally drawn to journalism, because I always say it's an excuse to be professionally nosy. I can't ask you about your feelings on like big controversial social issues because I'm acting as a journalist and I'm trying to get information and write a story. So I feel like it all correlates in a weird way.
You were talking about like you had a conference call the other day and your mom was like, yo, come over here, let's take a shot, blah, blah. And you were like, Mom, I gotta be professional. Like, how do you think about like being professional, but also staying authentic, like at work, like that balance? Or like, yeah.
It's such an interesting dance because there were times where like I'm frustrated at work. And what I would want to do if I was alone is like scream mad swear words at the top of my lungs. And like all the languages, like English, Spanish, languages that I've come up, Cambodian, like all the languages that have been around me in my whole life. And I'm just like, ugh. But then you're at the office and you're like, well, one, I am a person, I'm in a leadership position. I'm the program director. I have people who look up to me. So I can't just be screaming fuck, balls, shit at the top of my lungs at the office. I got to keep it together. So it's interesting because over the years, as I've gotten comfortable with my organization, so I work at a super, super small nonprofit. We're literally 9 full-time employees, all women. We have 2 service members that rotate each year. So basically kind of like glorified interns, like a glorified internship when you do like a year of service to a nonprofit. But I when I was first hired, I was the only person of color on staff. And so I had to wrestle with a lot of feelings of, I know I deserve this and I'm qualified, but I'm also very much a diversity recruit. But I'm gonna let that slide because I'm gonna show you that I can do this regardless, even if no matter what, I can do this job and I can do it well. So as I've grown my team, I've been very, very intentional about recruiting people of color, bringing diversity. And diversity means a lot of things. So I'm intentional about racial diversity, gender diversity, sort of like however in all the ways you identify diversity, you're gonna find all that and then some on my team. And once I've built that team, I feel like it's been even easier to be authentically myself, because even when I am like having my moment and I need to be like, coñazo, these kids, like, I know that the people on my team are looking at me like, yeah, we feel you. And like the white team, not the white team, but the white people on my team are kind of like they're not surprised. Like, I don't feel like no one understands me. Like, there are people who understand me. But it's really interesting because I work at a nonprofit, which means that I'm constantly connecting with funders. So I have to, sell. You got to sell your program. You want people to give you money. Why should we give you money? Why should we invest in the work that you do with the students that you serve? And for me, Carla, I want to be like, yo, like, us brown, black, inner city kids got lots of shit to say, and y'all motherfuckers need to hear it. But then I'm like, okay, how do I say that in grant writing? Like, well, the population of urban students that we serve are often marginalized and attend under-resourced and underfunded schools. Therefore, we are trying to create opportunities to bridge them, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, I have to find a happy medium, because I feel like when I'm too rehearsed, como que they're not buying it. But when I'm like, mira, I was one of these kids, I benefited from this program. It was the reason why I decided to become a professional journalist, and now I'm giving back. And when you marry sort of the two, like, I'm bringing my authentic narrative and my authentic feelings, and I'm presenting to you in a way that's still professional, I feel like I'm not losing the story. Like, I'm being my authentic self, but you are also interested. Like, it's not turning anyone away, because that's where we have to be careful, especially people like me that I tend to be louder and have a lot of personality, because you don't, especially like in nonprofits and fundraising, I don't want to shy anyone away where they're like, oh, too risky, too much, too this. Like, no, I'm a professional, but I am also me.
I also thought it was interesting, like when you were talking about being authentically yourself, it was a lot about like how you speak, but a lot of people, like how they suppress their identities too, is like how they show up and like their appearance. Like, do you feel like right now, for example, like you showed up to this interview or like this conversation with your hair curly.
Oh yeah.
And I love
And a
that.
hoodie. And like, I was like,
Yeah.
put out.
But also you showed up to, before this, you met your students, right? You went to go see your students and you didn't show up in like a suit. You showed up in just like, Carla, this is me, right? But like when you show up to your donors, right? Or you have these like sales conversations, like what do you look like? Do you look the
Oh
same?
man, it depends. I have a lot of feelings around that. So
I have a lot.
I have
I
a
have a
lot
lot
of
of feelings.
feelings.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
So
Even,
since
yeah.
2017, I've been completely natural. So what I mean by that is that I don't straighten my hair. I don't put in heat. Like I was just fed up with it. I was fed up with the culture around Dominican salons and sort of like the chisme that you're listening to. Also, just like sometimes the unprofessionalism that you're there for 3 hours and then they take 3 girls in front of you and you're here in rolos for like 5 hours and you're like, yo, when is it my turn? And at this point, I might as well sleep here because it's going to be tomorrow.
Oh, it's an all day event.
It's an all day event. And for me, it just didn't make sense, especially in the summer, because I'd spend $40, $50, get my hair done. I step outside, one little bit of humidity, and it was like, oof. And I was like, this is a waste of money and a waste of time. A waste of money and a waste of time. So I stopped. And that was a very conscious decision. Also because I grew up in a super, como se dice, like, I just grew up around a lot of women, both friends and family members, that were very much about their appearance, and I've never truly been like that. I'm just like, sometimes I'm a little sloppy.
I think it's cultural too. Like,
Definitely.
it's funny. So I see whenever I see my grandma, the first thing she tells me is something on my appearance. It's like, ¿tú estás gordo? ¿Tú estás comiendo? ¿Estás comiendo mucho? Or like, ay, la barba. It's never like, how are you? The first thing, and it's not, I hear that from everybody, right? It's like, okay, tu pelo. But it's always appearance based. And I think it's just culturally like who we are.
It's very much culturally, and it's very much, those compliments of appearance are related to affection. So cuando dice, ay, tú estás flaquita, tú te ves bien, oh, te puedes casar. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Or like now that I WhatsApp, face, video time, whatever the whatever the word is on WhatsApp. But when I video chat with my family in Colombia, especially like my uncles and my grandma, the first thing my grandma says is, no te pongas más gorda because then you won't get married. And I'm like, okay, bendición mamá, thanks for that.
Hi to you too, grandma.
Right?
Yeah.
Or she's always like, ay, tus churcos están tan lindo, like I love them.
Wait, what's churcos? What is that? Is that Colombia for curls?
Yeah, so like churcos, crespos, that's like interchangeable for curly hair. And no one on my Colombian side has curly hair. This is from my Dominican side. This is this Black ancestry, this African ancestry right here. I love it. I treasure it. I take care of it. I moisturize it, So yeah, appearance is always a thing. So when it comes to work and my appearance, ever since 2017, I've been more intentional about my hair, and making sure that I have that conversation with my students, because my students obviously notice. They're like, oh, you don't straighten your hair no more. And I'm like, yeah, do you want to talk about it? How do you feel about hair? And so it sparks really interesting conversation where I feel like even this generation now is even more understanding and more accepting. And they're like, yeah, Carla, that's really cool. Where like my older cousins and my older sister may be like, we don't get it. Go straighten your hair. You look like a loca. Like you're having a bad hair day and you can't hide it. And I'm like, well, I don't really mind not being able to hide it. It's my hair. It's how it literally goes out of my head. So why do I have to suppress that in order to make other people feel comfortable or feel attracted to me? If you don't like my PAJON, then that's on you. That's on you.
PAJON, pelo malo. Like there's so many terms that are just like cultural norms at this point. And they're just, people just talk about it. That's dope. I love the fact that you're telling your students that as well, because like it's such an important lesson to teach people. But I think I don't know if you realize this as well, but like you're having just by you being a director and a leader in like this position at your company, like kids are looking up to you and they're looking at like, oh shit, I can be a director and look like that. You know what I mean? And I think that it's always, for me at least, it's always been like a trade-off. Like it's either I'm a director or like I'm an executive and I like shave my beard, or like I don't talk the way I talk, I don't look the way I look. Or like I can look the way I look, but like I'm just gonna never be like a CEO and stuff like that. But like having both and creating that representation is so important.
So it meant even more to me because, as you mentioned earlier, like I wasn't always in a journalism job. In between like being a journalist and having this job as the program director of my youth journalism program, I used to work selling cars, which was such an interesting detour in my life. But it meant that I was with men 24/7. I was always the only saleswoman at each dealership that I worked at. Men in suits, and then they would be like, "Oh, Carla, like you need to wear suits to work." And I'm like, "Do I? I'm still selling cars. My numbers are still good. My customers still like me. Like, did I go dress professional? Yes." But they're like, like a nice pantsuit would be nice. Like, oh, we like when you straighten your hair more. Like, why don't you straighten your hair more? And I'm like, y'all need to stop with all that. Y'all are really getting to me. So like, obviously I would let it slide because I was like, I was usually the only person of color, usually the only woman. And I was just like, whatever, I'm gonna let it rock. I understand that this is different for them. It's a different culture, it's a different look, whatever. But as soon as I came into a position of power where I had nobody telling me what I needed to look like or what they liked for me to look like, I was like, this is it. I can express myself any way that I want. And I found myself that even through my first year at my organization, I stopped wearing all of my professional clothes that I wore to the dealership. Like I wasn't wearing my pencil skirts. I wasn't doing like the button down and this and that. Like obviously I still look professional. I still look polished, but it was with my own spin. Like I'm going to wear like nice, like a dressy, higher end jeans with a heel, but I'm gonna wear like a cute sweater and my hair's curly and I don't feel the need to straighten it for you because you're not judging me on my appearance. You're judging me on the quality of the work that I'm doing with the youth that we serve. So I found myself that over the years, I've been a little bit more relaxed and I've been able to play with what a lot of people consider like business casual, which is where honestly I feel the most comfortable. Business casual, big curly hair, and then a bold lip. So that's another thing that when I am interviewing people for positions on my team, I do find that if I am interviewing a man, I'm gonna bring out all the stops. I'm wearing a blazer, I'm wearing a red lipstick. Like I am going to show you that even though you're older than me and you are a man, I'm the one in charge. I'm interviewing you. And I am very conscious about that. I always wear red lipstick when I interview men. Like I always need to have that power move. I'm always in a blazer. I'm always in a business suit because I feel like I spent so many years being the opposite person of that table, the person on the opposite end of that table and being sort of like, not judged, but questioned and being told what to do, where it kind of feels good to have a little bit of that power and like look good doing it.
Yeah, go. That's you. Have fun moves. I like it. You mentioned red lipstick, right? And you mentioned like in 2017, like you did just straight up natural, right? Like I'm assuming those things make you feel powerful, make you feel authentic. Like when do you feel the most authentically yourself, but also powerful and confident? Like what makes you feel like that?
Oh, such a good question. I would say that it has nothing to do with looks or what I'm wearing or anything like that. It's actually when I am facilitating really thoughtful and thought-provoking conversations with my youth. That's when I feel most powerful because I feel like especially in schools, there were not enough spaces for students to have really genuine conversations about race, identity, gender, inequality, or whatever else is affecting them in their everyday life. So to me, being that trusted adult that is able to relate to them, understand those issues probably at a deeper level than other adults could. I feel really powerful sort of being that person that, one, creates a space, and two, allows young people to truly express themselves and have conversations amongst one another about how they feel. And they're able to say, like, I'm this white kid from Dorchester and this has been my experience. And this person can be like, well, I'm the Spanish kid from Jamaica Plain and this has been my experience. And they're two totally different experiences, even though we're totally in the same city and we are all neighbors, but this is how we feel. This is how all of these social, economical, cultural issues are affecting us. And the fact that I am the one that is like, the fact that I'm the reason why this conversation is happening and these youth feel empowered, that's when I feel like a fucking boss. I'm just like, I did that. You see that? You see those kids having a conversation that adults can't have because they don't know how to express themselves or they feel uncomfortable. That's powerful.
Again, I don't want to take too much of your time. I just want to say thank you
Oh,
so
you're good.
much.
This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for having a conversation with us, me. And it's funny, like when thinking about this, like you were one of the first people that came to mind. Because again, I tell you this all the time, but like never change. Like the one, I mean, there are many things like I love about you, but the number one thing, which is like the reason why like I think I gravitated towards you, is because you're so unapologetically yourself. And even in the position you are in now, you're still doing that. And now you're inspiring and empowering your students to do that. So like, thank you. Just keep being yourself. I love you. And I look forward to catching up with you in Boston, New York. Who knows?
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Vegas? Yes, let's do it.